Hi, Rick Harsh, book reviewer here today. Um, I received a book in the mail this morning called The BELAN Deck by Matt Bucher. It was a gift that I'm now very grateful for. And I'm going to review it. And, you know, I like to kind of ease into these reviews with personal stuff. I got a complaint, or actually a snarky comment, and not even on the comment section here, but they used my email address to ask me if I had any other shirts. Because apparently I used the same shirt 2 days in a row, as if that's the fucking record. Um, well, no, I don't have enough shirts. I have a son who wears the same size as me, and he's left me one shirt. And I have a neighbor who's about the same size as me, and they dry their clothes on a clothesline, and so every day or every other day I pluck off a shirt. If it's dry, I wear it, and that's where I got this one. He'll be here tomorrow because he knows it's me. He knows I do this, and somehow is tolerant of this habit of mine, and just comes and says, "Hey, can I have my shirt back?" So yeah, sure. I just needed it for one day. You can even smell the armpits. I use Old Spice, you know. So if it smells like anything, it'll smell like Old Spice, you know. So here I am in a different shirt. In my pocket, I have the world famous Field Notes, much beloved by the author of the book, who sent me the Field Notes along with it. And he also sent me a private note. But what I decided to do was use this to write my review. But I only wrote a little bit of the review. So what I'm going to do is what people should do when they review a book is read the back, you know. Can you see me? I mean, my head's cut off, but I want to be able to read it, so I need the light. The BELAN Deck by Matt Bucher, and it is BELAN is the CEO, and he needs the PowerPoint deck as soon as possible. The narrator, however, just wants to fly home, and he might not deliver what BELAN is expecting. Set mostly during a delay at SFO, that must be San Francisco Airport. The BELAN deck captures the traveler's reflections on art, artificial intelligence, corporate life, David Markson, coincidences, and literature. So, now you know what this is about. I don't have to tell you. So let me go to my field notes. I said, in a private note, Matt Bucher wrote me, and I'm quoting here, "I'm not sure if this will be to your taste." It's a partly public note now. His love for these field notes are publicly known, all the more so now. Bruce Chatwin's book that this so resembles in parts was called Songlines. The unnamed traveling companion in that book was Salman Rushdie. Rushdie, in a Maltese televised interview, said at his age, the writer doesn't try so hard anymore. From the little I know of David Markson, he begged to differ. But it explains the decline in Rushdie's writing in his books, and probably those of Carlos Fuentes. These are two people who I loved when I was younger and whose books did not get much better. When Rushdie was finally attacked, the would-be killer was going after a washed-up writer. No one uses, or no one has, my own writing here, no one has political objections to Dan Brown. And that's where I left off, because what's great about this book that's written in almost entirely in aphorisms, which is quite an accomplishment to keep you interested in a book that's filled with aphorisms. Not many people, E.M. Choran was great with them, Nietzsche, of course, was famously great with them, but this is a novel of the late 21st century. I consider this pretty late. I didn't think we'd go this long. And I just thought I'd go through and read some of the things that I marked, just to give you a good taste of what I will tell you soon and why has become one of the more important books I've read in a long time. And there were some very funny things. He's subtle with his humor, and some are just plain interesting. He says here, most of the writing, the actual sentences or bullets or fragments on slides, unremarkable. He's talking about the bullet point. What do they call that? PowerPoint presentation. I gave one of those once. In was it Belgrade? I don't remember. No, it was in Izmir. Yeah, and I thought, man, I suck at this. And it was the problem was that you're showing the separation between what I want to say, who I am, and what's up on the screen and is being shown. I think it's something you got to get the hang of. The CEO, when he gives a PowerPoint presentation, he reads it all. Trying to find meaning through work. Unenlightened. A fool's errand. That's how the book goes, these things. But then, there are also lists of coincidences that remind me, and that are filled with factual information that you might not think at all about, but are actually interesting in and of themselves. This is from the diary of his great-grandfather, Leo Stephen BELAN, from Powersville, Missouri. A sample week from June 1910. Monday, June 6, 1910. Clear, meaning the weather, I think. Worked on shop. Tore it down. And next day he says, cloudy most of day. Worked on shop. Wednesday, cloudy all day, rained p.m. Worked for A. Kozad, a neighbor. Rest of the time he works on Kozad. There's a funny bit in here that I'll skip for the reader to enjoy later. And then, one of the things that happens in here is, you can read this really rapidly, but, of course you shouldn't. You shouldn't read a book like this rapidly. Because then you miss sentences like this. Says an epiphany cannot exist artificially. He talks a lot about artificial intelligence in here, and You know, so an epiphany cannot exist artificially. It's the kind of sentence that you can just skip quickly without actually sitting and thinking about that. An epiphany cannot exist artificially. Something to think about. A chicken is only the method an egg uses to make another egg. Now, it's a short book, so if you're impatient, fuck off. New title. He's thinking of titles for his PowerPoint presentation. Marks on the Street. Well, this is partly an ode to David Markson. So you get Marks on the Street, Marks on the Street. And later in the same page, you get Marks on a Screen. I thought, okay, I better start looking for Markson. How many ways can he disguise it? Well, later on, he disguises it as David Markson a couple times. Here he says, AI can't kill anything worth preserving. And then he says, 2 lines later, he says, my desperate voice has become my only way out. Those two together are brilliant. And as we go through, there's a great deal of information and trivia, trivial information, and here I just wrote the Bruce Chatwin sequence. There's a 26 entries that remind me of song lines in the way that they just pile on information and are, more or less thematically connected. He writes here, the proper work of the critic is praise, and that which cannot be praised should be surrounded with a tasteful, well thought out silence. I agree with him on that. But writers are, usually the last people who can successfully argue about criticism. But I actually was charged with the task of reviewing The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. And, she was already a prize winner, and this was for a very small publication in Wisconsin. She was a prize winner and was, just beloved by everybody. And I read the book, and I couldn't believe how crappy it was. And I said to someone, this was probably a first draft. That's how it reads. And first drafts don't have to be bad, but this one really needed an editor. There were just fuck ups left and right, and I'm not just talking about proofreading. It had its delight, but and since she wrote it, she did with her literary fame more than most people do in a lifetime of trying to do good. So I really like her. And I'm glad that I found a way to write the review and praise her, because tasteful is not my thing, nor is silence. Well thought out silence, well, that's how you become a big shot in business or politics, and that's not me either. Here we are. Okay. Raise your algorithm right, and it probably won't try to murder anyone. He's comparing it to raising children. And then here's a lone sentence. Not actually, it's not a full sentence. The unswerving punctuality of chance. That was one of the titles he was considering for the PowerPoint presentation. The unswerving punctuality of chance. I love that. And here we have an odd one. An intelligence agent is anything which perceives its environment, takes actions autonomously, and can improve its performance through learning. Now, this is, earlier in the book, he mentions that intelligence is used, for military intelligence, that kind of thing, for spying. And that makes this sort of mysterious to me. Um, this is one place where I stopped to think and didn't succeed in figuring out what I might have been supposed to figure out. I don't know. Um, Here he says, what machines cannot do well yet: feel pain, write a memoir, secretly yearn for the boredom of the airport. Um, and that I just wrote in nostalgia. I think nostalgia is maybe that's part of the secret yearning for the boredom of the airport, nostalgia. But that's another thing they can't do. Here's something that's very funny in context, so I'll leave it to you to read the book and get the context. Anti-confluential. The term anti-novel or anti-roman was first used in 1633. Now there is an interesting thing for you writers out there to consider. Um, you know, when if anybody asked me who are your modern influences, I would say Rabelais, maybe even Petronius. But he also says Winston Churchill's last words. I'm bored with it all. Well, Winston, I am bored with you, and I think you're one of history's most ugly personalities. So there. Okay. He talks about rabbit holes a lot, going down rabbit holes. Rabbit hole number 8, starting on slide 263. Farrar, Straus, Giroux. A confluence of American ideas and personalities. So Farrar, Straus, Giroux. And then the next aphorism, let's call him. At a table facing the Y-shaped corridor of Terminal 3, Y-shaped, Farrar, Straus, Giroux. Terminal 3, Farrar, Straus, Giroux. The waitress is machine-like in her efficiency. Hedy Lamarr once divorced her own divorce lawyer. He was on relationships for a while. There's also some good baseball stuff in here. I should have looked some of these up, but I decided not to. I didn't want to get down a rabbit hole and not do this. Reader's Block, and it's italicized, so that must be a book, is dedicated to Stephen Moore. Okay. Technology can't catch up. It creates holes in the timeline. There's one to spend a lot of time with. Here's a favorite, too. James Joyce struggled to earn money as a writer. James fucking Joyce. That's 2 lines. 2 paragraphs. Rita Gam starred in a film adaptation of Sartre's No Exit, which was directed by Tad Danielewski, father of Mark Danielewski. Well, here, Rick Harsh, who's reading this book, shared an agent with Mark Danielewski for some time and actually read House of Leaves in manuscript and really wasn't very impressed with it at that time. I haven't seen it since it's come out. It's probably really great. But the agent is a sociopath named Warren Fraser. And he did more to hurt my career than could possibly be imagined. If he had made that his life's goal, he succeeded. PowerPoint as an outpouring of grief. a short rhetoric against the unstoppable avalanche of AI. That one made me stop. Is this too much silence? Are you thinking about that? Has anyone ever said of a PowerPoint deck, you could read it in one sitting as a compliment? I love that. That's on page 100 of 119 pages. And has anyone ever said of a PowerPoint deck, you could read it in one sitting as a compliment? So, hey, you should get this book. You can read it in one sitting. And it's true, and you should. But if you don't read it, I know already where it's going to go. It's going to go right here in my balcony bookcase, where the books are active, even if I'm not. So I'll be reading this again and again. This. I don't know if there's a problem with this book. It could be that it's a writer's book. Maybe it's a book too much for writers. I don't know, but I don't think Dan Brown would like it. Salman Rushdie had dinner with Carrie Fisher the night before she died. Well, there's something. What are you supposed to make of something like that? Well, that's where, okay, Studs Terkel, the next one, died on Halloween 2008, 5 years before Obama's election. So, and before that, it was Barack Obama's grandmother, the woman who raised him, died 2 days before he was elected president. So he was, connecting some dots that may be coincidence. And I don't, this is not a didactic book. It doesn't in essence, it doesn't tell you what you're supposed to make of the coincidences that it points out. It's just very interesting. I don't know if I marked anything else, because as I came to the end, I was thinking, this is not a book to summarize the story of, but it's a book to give the flavor of. So that's the end of my review, and this is a one-off, one-of-a-kind, fantastic book, and the jury's out on the field notes. I used them today, and I think that's probably, if I could get something like this around here, I probably will, because I love a fancy leather book, notebook, but I have so many now that are empty. Maybe I try to give them away to my children, but maybe they take them now and then. But I'll have to ask Mr. Bucher. All that's left now is to tell you about Matt Bucher. And this is where it gets really interesting for me. Matt Bucher is a writer and editor living in Austin, Texas. He is the co-host of the Concavity Show podcast and can be reached at mattbucher.com. Now, the Concavity podcast, as a literary man, I'm thinking geologist as well. A concavity. So what's missing? What gave it that shape? Concave? Concavity? You know what it is? They've never had Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas and its author on their show, and that gives it this shape. And now that I've read his book, there's some movement towards you know, well, we're threatening to, you know, make it the great convexity. It's going to happen sooner or later if they're successful. So, thanks for listening, and you know, remember, if you can't, well, just don't even be a critic. Fuck it, you know. And special thanks to Matt Bucher for sending me this book. And I hope Bucher is the right way to pronounce your name. Good night.